What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays in the SEC, episode 135. Back to recap week 9 of the college football season. Um, Going to do something a little different. We normally wouldn't lead off with Auburn, Kentucky, based on the slate we had this weekend, but this is a special occasion. We have boots on the ground in Kroger Field. Carden getting his first experience there in Lexington. Uh, Give us your thoughts on the game, the atmosphere, what you saw from Auburn, and then I'll kind of follow after you. But just give us your thoughts on the game and the environment, everything you experienced Saturday night.
Extremely proud of the Auburn fan base. Traveled extremely well. No shock. They always do. Auburn always travels well, but Auburn fan base traveled extremely well, and they were loud. Early on, not so much because they weren't really given much to be loud about. But after that, Auburn fans were extremely loud, and I was disappointed in the Kentucky fans, not necessarily in how their fandom was and how they, cheered. They were definitely into it. And there were people there that were caring and getting real upset later in the game for sure. They cared. But what I was upset with is when you go to Auburn, when you go to Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, just places like that. Even I'll even say Mississippi State. They're not known as a powerhouse in the SEC, but if you go to their game an hour before kickoff, 45 minutes at least, pretty much every seat in the house has got a butt in it. Am I wrong? You, if you're at Bryant Denny, if you're at Neyland
Oh
Stadium,
yeah.
if you're at Jordan Hare, you're at the Swamp, and you look around, it's an hour to 45 minutes before kickoff. It's hard to spot empty seats. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, especially big games too. Like, I mean, it's yeah, yeah. I mean, they're usually people are in pretty early.
You saw the story I posted, right?
Yeah.
I believe that was 50 minutes before kickoff. Um, we got there, obviously, like everybody usually does, an hour, 45 minutes before kickoff. You're getting there. So we
hmm
got there, we spent some time at Tin Roof. It was a good time. We got there. And I'm sitting down, I'm like, damn, it looks empty. 10 minutes before kickoff. I'm looking directly across the stands in front of me. The bottom seats, where I'm assuming it's season ticket holders because they're really nice seats. And then some of the upper deck, it's still empty. Like 10 minutes before kick. We're doing all the player intros and stuff on the board. It's not very loud during player intros because half the Kentucky fans aren't there. Well, it winds down to like, coin flip time. And people are filing into the stands, and there's still, I can vividly see with my naked eyeballs across the stadium, hundreds, thousands of empty seats. And I'm like, the coin toss is happening. And then by about the time the both hands teams are running on the field, sure enough, I look up and the stadium's full. I'm like, they wait till the very last minute. Okay. So then Kentucky jumps to an early lead. Obviously, we'll jump into the game time here. I'm just giving honest feedback here. Kentucky jumps up to an early lead, and man, the crowd's rocking. And then Peyton Thorne throws that interception when they're down. Auburn's down 10-0. Thorne throws the interception. Kentucky, the place, I mean, it erupts. It was loud. And I looked at my buddies and I was like, man, we might get ran out of here if they score a touchdown right here. They had like a 30, 35 yard short field. Auburn ends up, nutting up and making a stop. But they were extremely loud there. So I was like, man, this is a good environment. It's going to be a fun game. So then halftime comes, Auburn has that blunder right there with the clock management, takes the sack, and they end up not being able to get the snap off to kick the field goal right before half to go up 13-10 or to attempt to go up 13-10. Field goals for Auburn haven't been great. No, it's a new kicker, but still. Anyway, blunders that. So it's 10-10 at half. Auburn had all the momentum, had a chance to take the lead going into half, and they blundered it. Any other place you go, that stadium erupts. And their stadium did erupt when all that happened. They went nuts. But coming out of half, that stadium is going to be rocking. They just took back all the momentum. They're not going to let you get it back. They're going to be rocking. Auburn got the ball in the second half, so they're going to try to be loud any other place you go. Dude, I swear on my life, we look over when the third quarter starting, and some of the student sections kind of empty. After the first drive of the third quarter, not kidding, 60% of the student section gone. I mean, completely empty. And I'm like, it's a tie ball game. Now you're down a touchdown. What in the world is going on? Like, I was looking at my buddies like, what? They were like, I can't believe this. Like, no, in no way I've never been anywhere and seen that happen. I know they're a basketball school or whatever, but I mean, damn, it's the SEC. Football means something, and there was people there that cared. I just could not believe how late they showed up. That shocked me. That's not a big deal. It just shocked me. But that their students left. I mean, I'm not saying, half of them. 60 to 65% of their student section gone, not to be found. I mean, stadium empty in their student section. I was shocked. I was a little disappointed in them in that aspect. But other than that, it was a really great time. The right before kickoff was 7:45 Lexington time. So we got there, an hour before, and the sun was setting like 6:30. And dude, it was a beautiful skyline. We were on the 50-yard line, upper deck on the Auburn side. Beautiful, beautiful view. And then the nighttime skyline kind of look was cool. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very, very fun. Obviously, Auburn won, but it was a fun trip. I enjoyed my time down there. It was really cool. Not very big, not a whole lot, not the same, not like all the other SEC campuses that I've been to. I haven't been to all of them, but the ones that I've been to, it's nothing like those. But I really had a great time. I will be going back. Gonna try and find a ticket to Rupp Arena one of these days. I know that's gonna be hard to do and not break the bank, but I'm gonna try and do it just because I would like to experience that. But yeah, really fun time. But the game itself, man, I mean, you got to tip your cap to Auburn finally just giving up and saying, "All right, we're going to hand it off." He gave in. He just finally. Why did it take you so long to do it? Now the RPO game was still there, definitely strong in the first half, and they relied on that. And then eventually the run just came through with that. They were still playing with the RPO game, and then early in the third quarter, they were doing the same thing, but man, Jarquez, he just couldn't be stopped. Damari was doing a little bit too here and there, not quite to the same magnitude as Jarquez, but he had some very good runs as well. Um, but the run game, man, just came alive. Absolutely dominated in the trenches this game. After the first two drives from Kentucky, Auburn really took over the game. Was able to answer, with a touchdown in the back corner, really beautifully thrown ball. And after that, they pretty much drove down the field and put up points every single drive. There was only two drives that didn't come away with points after the first two. After Auburn was down 10-0, from that point on, there was only two drives that didn't come away with the with points. One of those, no, actually it was three, but the one of them was the last drive of the game when they knelt it out. So don't count that. And then one of them was a missed field goal, so that hurt. That hurt too. So there were 6 points. Auburn wins 24-10. There were 6 points left on the field, so that that upsets you, but it also makes you feel a little bit better. It's like you really, really could have dominated that game. They're going to, those opportunities aren't going to be missed in the future. We hope. So we'll see. Kentucky, man, I don't. Bob Stoops went away from Brock Vandagriff. I didn't think it was a lot of Vandagriff's fault, really, of what was going on. I mean, there was times where he had some bad passes, but he had, I mean, pressure on him all game pretty much. Auburn's defensive front did really well. Keldrick Falk, man, had a great game. Eugene Asante was creating some havoc in the backfield along with Jalen McLeod. I thought the defense played extremely well. A lot of the young guys stepped up, man. Uh, Jay Crawford played extremely well. Number 23, the defensive back. He played extremely well, had an interception, had like 2 or 3 pass breakups. I think they only targeted his guy 6 times. So with two catches, I think, on 6 targets or something along those lines. He played really, really well. A bunch of guys, everybody on the defensive front played well. There was 6 guys on the defense that was playing when they had the goal line stand there in Kentucky late in the game to keep them at 10 points. So I thought the defense played extremely well. They have all year. They finally got some offense to help them out and go with it. Time of possession was really good in the second half by Auburn. I just felt like in the second half, really midway through the third quarter on, Kentucky's defense didn't want anything to do with Jarquez Hunter. If he had the ball, that he was going to get 10 yards of carry. They didn't want anything to do with him. I thought the O-line played really, really well. They had really good protection, which was shocking to me with this Kentucky front. I don't know if they're just depleted and just, they don't really have the care and the excitement like they did early in the year because they know they're out of it. They just they've lost a couple games now. I don't know if that was it, but man, I was really impressed with how well Auburn pass protected and how well they were able to block on the run. It's better than we've seen in quite some time. I I liked that Hugh Freeze said in the third quarter, he said, no throws, no throws, just run it. Just give it to 27. Because, I mean, even earlier in the year when Jarquez would run the ball and he would get a 1 to 2 yard gain or maybe get a stop for no gain, I felt like they would go away from it completely. They would just abandon it completely. But then this week you saw when he would have a 1 or 2 yard or a no yard gain, and then they would hand it to him again the very next play, he'd bust it for an 8 to 10 yard carry. And then he'd bust another one for a 20 yard carry. It's like they just stuck with it. I felt like earlier in the year they abandoned it a little quick. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just how I felt in watching the games. But this week, I felt like they finally stayed with it and just kept pounding at it, kept pounding at it, and it finally broke through. Man, it was nice to see. I know Kentucky fans are frustrated playing Georgia extremely well early in the year, beating Ole Miss, but you get embarrassed by South Carolina in week 1 or week 2. You lose last week to Florida in embarrassing fashion. At home, you're up 10-0, and then you allow Auburn to score 24 unanswered. So you're definitely frustrated. I understand it. Auburn fans understand it as well uh, in this season for sure. But man, it was a great experience. I'm glad Auburn finally got their first win. Made the trip down there. They got their first win in conference. That's big. It's going to propel things and changes the outlook of the team and how they're going to finish out the season. If Auburn lost this game, it's probably they might not have won another game the rest of the year. Just that type of game, a momentum type swinging game. They're still bowl eligible. There's still something to play for. So I mean, hats off to Hugh Freeze. Keldrick Falk tweeted after the game, Freeze flu game. I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. He had a stomach bug. I'm like, all right, calm down. There's still a lot that wasn't right, but man, I don't know necessarily what it was that Kentucky went away from, or if Auburn just figured them out. But I thought defensively, man, the pressure that they were able to get after the first 2 drives, they were able to get home to the quarterbacks. The coverage was amazing, and they were just never comfortable at all the rest of the night. I think Auburn had 4 or 5 sacks. Keldrick Falk had 2 or 3. I mean, they played really well.
Yeah, I think that's been a big thing for Kentucky this year too. I just feel like offensively they just have not been able to find an identity with, consistency, with Auburn's D line, led by Keldrick Fall, like you said. I mean, just feel like that's been an issue for Kentucky up front. I mean, I know Auburn, nobody really, there's not many that have South Carolina's D line, but you saw how they kind of abused them. Obviously, it wouldn't to that level, but still, like the point
Elite
stands, like
pass
they
rushers
were.
are going to get theirs against Kentucky.
Yeah, I think, and you kind of saw that in this game. I think the most, I mean, obviously Jarquez Hunter is kind of the star of this game, but I think just the overall, the offensive line obviously takes most of the credit for run game and protection. Like obviously, people are talking about offensive line. I just thought not only that, but I thought the tight ends were doing a better job. I thought the receivers were blocking a lot better. Like it was a total team effort across the board that sprung him to this kind of night. Like you knew this night was in there. Like it just had to everything had to come together. And I just felt like everybody did their job from the O line to the tight ends, sealing edges to the receivers on the outside. Like I feel like the receiver blocking's been a little bit of an issue and could be something that's a lot better. And I thought they took a big step forward in that the other night, just from all aspects. And I think that kind of, obviously sprung him to this kind of night.
Yeah.
In the second half, you said it, they didn't want any part of him. And that was surprising how easily they were able to run the ball in the second half, particularly. Because I mean that is a really good Kentucky front. Deion Walker is like one of the best defensive tackles in this game. So um, that was really impressive what they were able to do. Thought Thorne was solid, like you said, taking what was there. Um, was good in the RPO game as well. That's something to just keep the defense honest. Like that's something they got to account
Yeah.
for. I think that helps Jarquez get going, and you saw them dominate time of possession. You saw them win the turnover battle, and
About time.
they would have a lot more wins if they would have been able to do that earlier in the year. But you see the progression a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought it was big, and it was cool. Um, even though I'm not an Auburn fan, like it was cool to see how excited all the players were
Yeah.
to kind of get over that hump, be able to finally finish a game in the fashion that you want to.
They can
And
see land. They can see
yeah, you
land.
yeah, you could tell how excited they were to get over that hump, and especially to do it on the road. I mean, it's never easy on the road in the SEC. So I thought it was a really solid performance all the way around. Defensively was dominant. Just had Kentucky uncomfortable all night, which, like I said, it's been a theme for them a little bit. And then, Jarquez just being able to control things, and the protection from all aspects, I thought was much better than what we've seen for parts of the year.
My only complaint with Auburn this week is that I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm at least off by one carry. I don't think Jarquez got his first carry until like 8 minutes to go in the first quarter. I'm like, that's way too long. It was the third drive, I think. Third drive for Auburn, maybe fourth drive after the interception. So I know there's RPO and he's not going to get it every time, but him not having the ball, him not getting a handoff in Auburn's first three drives is criminal, especially after you saw what he did. But I know he got touches. They threw him two or three passes in those, but hand it off to him. I felt like they were when Hugh Freeze says yes, we're going to give it to him more, and then it's the fourth drive before he's handed the ball. I know the end result was there. I just felt like why not go to it a little earlier than that? Did you feel like it was like, my God, when is Jarquez going to get a handoff? Damari got a handoff before Jarquez did. Jamari
Yeah.
didn't touch the ball before Jarquez did, but Damari got a direct handoff twice before Jarquez got one. And I thought that was a little strange. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes too, I feel like maybe coaches. I don't know if you say overthink. Maybe you could, like, sometimes
Over
the
prepare, maybe?
opposing team knows a guy's getting the start, knowing the guy's going to get the ball, so they kind of go away from it and kind of like almost like, hey, we're going to distribute it here to kind of get like set it up, so to speak. I think, but I think maybe you saw a little bit of that, like you've seen it plenty of times
Yeah.
before. Like, kind of they think we're going to do this, so we're going to go away from it. But yeah, at the same time, like that's your lead horse.
Yeah.
Like you want to establish him first.
But they're either going to stop
Obviously,
him or they're not. Whether they know he's going to run or they're not, they're going to stop him or they're not. Might as well see what they got. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Why
yeah,
find out on drive four when you can find out on drive one?
for sure. I mean, the end result was there, as you said.
Right.
I mean, ended up being a dominant night
So
for
can't
him.
complain
But
too much.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I
the
mean,
only
I,
rule.
I I think for the first time this year, I was like, yeah, it felt like he got the proper, obviously you can always do a little bit more, but I thought for the first time, it's like, yeah, he got the proper amount of touches he should get, like it felt a
Career
feature.
high, 23.
Yeah. Which, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, what we figured up the numbers. He had been averaging what, like 16 this
Yeah,
year,
something like that. And I think it
as
actually
of
may have
2 weeks
been
ago or
down
so.
to like 14 or 15 going into that game.
I think too, kind of talking about the offensive line, you're obviously more in depth with the personnel and stuff. Um, how long? So I think Dylan Wade being at left tackle has helped them out a ton. How long was it? Was it fairly recently they made that move, or I don't
This
remember
week,
exactly. This
this
week,
week,
okay. I
I
wasn't sure
believe.
if it was a prior game, but I thought he was much better than what they've
I'm
had at
pretty
left
sure
tackle so far.
last week and the weeks previous, I'm pretty sure he was playing left guard just
Okay,
to
yeah,
try and patch up a hole because I don't think they were confident in whoever else was playing. I can't remember who it was, but then they slid him over to left tackle either this week or last week. But it's been very recent. But you're right;
okay.
it's made a
I thought
huge.
it was. I didn't want to misspeak on that or misspeak on that and say
Yeah, no,
something
very
that's
recent.
incorrect. But I knew he played left tackle in this game. I couldn't remember if it was before or not, but I thought he was much better than what they've had at left tackle. Kind of settle things down. Obviously not perfect, but um, he wasn't whiffing at guys like they've had
I think
had in some
Tall was the
previous
other guy
weeks.
on the other side. I can't remember who was
But
playing left tackle.
thought the
They
interior
rotated.
guys were really good too. Connor Lou's been solid, Jeremiah Wright in there. So, but yeah, I thought Dylan Wade did was a big upgrade from what they've had, and I think that
Yeah,
was a key in the success Saturday night.
absolutely. They played out of their minds. I mean, just dominated the trenches on both sides of the ball. Very okay. So last week I was starting to, worry a little bit about the recruiting and next year's recruiting. You're hearing some of them coming out saying some things like, they're strong in their commitments. That makes you feel good, but words are just words nowadays, especially. So I'll believe it when I see them on campus in an Auburn uniform. You know what I mean? But seeing the young guys that are true freshmen that just got on campus making a huge impact in this week's game, and seeing they're playing, more than 50% of the snaps. I mean, you got DeMarcus Riddick in there at linebacker now. I mean, he's playing a lot of snaps as a young true freshman linebacker. Two or three true freshman DBs. I mean, they're playing to true freshman defensive linemen. So seeing that they're playing and getting a lot of playing time and like play, playing snaps that matter. I don't know if that's the best way to word that, but meaningful snaps is what they're getting.
Yeah.
That is huge for the next year's recruiting cycle, because you can say this can be you. We have a lot of young guys, and a lot of the older guys that are here aren't the best players, but they're moving out. So there's going to be places empty for you guys. And clearly we're going to allow it, because look at us this year. We're playing so many true freshmen. Look at what they're doing. That could be you. So I think it definitely helps in recruiting, especially coming away with a win. Even if they would have played well and lost, it still would have helped a little bit. But coming away with a win, showing how impactful they can be as a true freshman and make a difference, I think that definitely helps with recruiting. So I'm a little less worried this year. I think you're right. Like you said last week, you're going to lose one here or there. Every school is. They're going to lose a few here and there. I mean, that's just the way of the world now. But I'm a little more, less worried in the security of the recruiting class next year for Hugh Freeze.
Well, I think too, being where they're at, in the standings. I mean, obviously there's still things to play for, but at
Right.
3-5, it's they're at the
You're playing
spot where, yeah,
spoiler.
we can go full blown youth movement, like get these, because these young guys, they're our most talented guys anyway.
Yep.
Like they're our building blocks going forward, and they're going to be the anchors for the future of Auburn football, and being able to lead some of these guys that are going to be coming in. So I think where they're at in their season too, and the way things have gone, it's a perfect opportunity. Even if those guys aren't, maybe full. I mean, and by all accounts, they're playing very, very well. But just like hypothetically say, like even if they're not 100% ready to go in there, like it's just a great opportunity. Hey, let's throw them out there. Let's see what they can do. Be able to build on some positive performances. You're seeing guys doing that, um, offensively, defensively. So I think they're afforded the chance to be able to do that with where they're at in their season. And it's exactly what they should be doing, because I mean I think this is a big confidence builder. If you can go on the road, these young guys play well and win. That's a big boost going forward. Like these are such valuable reps going forward for next year. And you don't want to be, nobody really likes thinking about next year when you're late October, but like how valuable these guys are to your future. And two, like at the same time, just the way college football is now too, like you if you can play them, you want to play them early where you don't have to worry about them necessarily hitting the transfer portal and going somewhere else. I mean, that's kind of how that's a factor in it as well, I think. So Auburn is in that position where they can afford to play those younger guys. Like they know they're going to be key building blocks going forward. And yeah, from all accounts, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are, having some really good games, having some really good reps. I think that's going to be beneficial going forward.
And I know Kentucky's not a great team. I'm not acting like Auburn just upset the number one team in the country or anything. I'm not acting like Auburn's, going to win out from here on out. But this feels really similar to the LSU Auburn game in 2013. The first half, Auburn played one of the worst halves of football that they've played in their history. And they were down 21-7, 21-3, something along those lines, at Baton Rouge at night. In the second half of that game, Auburn dominated. They just had got too far behind in the first half, but you saw it in the second half. They dominated, and it's like, okay, that's different. And that's not just this is a fluke moment. It's like, that's different, and it feels a lot like that. Obviously not to that magnitude, But the way this game felt, I know it was Kentucky, but the way it flowed, the way they were able to operate, and the way it looked on screen. I mean, I went back and watched it, obviously, but the way it looked on field in person, but the way it looked on screen, just the fluidity of their offense and the defense, and just how they were playing complementary football. It's like you can see the page turning. It's like that's it. And it feels a lot like that. It doesn't feel like it was fluky. It feels like you can see it's finally paying off. Like it's finally you're there. Again, not saying it's to the same magnitude. It just feels that way. And okay, that's it. That's what they're supposed to look like. It's going to get there. We see it. Now it's going to be different. Like I'm expecting the next few games for it to be a completely different Auburn team. Don't think they're going to win out at all. But I think the games that like Texas A&M and Alabama, I think that they're going to be much better games, and Auburn's going to be much more prepared for them for 4 quarters rather than 3.5 like they've been playing previously.
Well, the real test is this week because we know who's coming down to the Plains this week in
You're right.
Diego Pavia. So
You're right.
the test is coming. He's playing
Q is
great
0 and
football.
2 against Diego.
Yeah. So I mean, he's which and I don't say that in a bad manner whatsoever because
I understand.
I just saw him carve up an Alabama defense a couple weeks ago. So I'm not saying that in any ill intent at all.
Okay, I'll
Because
ask you this:
this
how
podcast is 0-3 against him. So
how in the hell is Auburn favored? I'm pretty sure they opened at 6.5. Now it's at 5.5. Last I looked. How is
I
Auburn
was
favored?
really curious to see the line, and I saw it, and I was like, that I wasn't shocked Auburn was favored. I didn't think it would be a touchdown necessarily. I was
I thought
thinking
they
more
might be
like
a
2.5, 3 maybe.
max, but I thought they would get all their favor just for being at home and getting that whatever 2.5 3 point swing or whatever it is for being at home. I thought they might be even just a 1.5 point favorite, 2 point favorite. I didn't think, but that's large, dude. A touchdown? Like you tell me they going by a
I'm seeing
touchdown?
7 right now actually on certain places.
It's
So
up. People are
yeah,
taking Auburn.
Auburn's -7 on CBS right now. So
I told you. I know. Again, it feels like the tide's turning. Like you can feel it. It looked different. It felt different. It's going to look different against Vandy. I really truly think that, but I don't know that that means we're going to win. I really don't. But it's going to look different. They're going to be a lot more competitive than they would have been 3 weeks ago. But I don't know that they win. I don't. I really. I'm staying away from this game completely because I can see Auburn coming out there and winning. I really could, but then I could also see Auburn getting put up and drugged by 21 points, 3 touchdowns. So like I can see it going either way, 100%. I have no feel in this game at all, so I'm staying away from it completely. I was just shocked completely that they were favored. But I'm going to be at the game this weekend too. I'm going to back games, so I'll be there, boots on the ground again in JHS. So
yeah,
maybe I can bring some more good luck.
yeah. That's no, I'm really interested for that game. We can talk about it a little more in a bit. I did want to get into kind of starting at the top of the day, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Kind of some thoughts on OU. Obviously, they um can their offensive coordinator, Seth Luttrell. Um,
First
thought they
one of the
did
season,
some.
I think, wasn't he? Wasn't he the first firing of the season?
Yeah. He had only been he was hired obviously this year with Jeff Levy leaving. So, um, but I thought they did some good things early. I liked their plan that they put together. Um, I was looking. I forgot his name. Who was the play caller? Joe John Finley was the play caller
Mhm.
this week. They got co OCs at the moment. Thought he had a good plan. They went back to Jackson Arnold for the start. For reports were saying he had a really good week of practice. Um, a lot of thoughts about that. Going from Michael Hawkins back to Jackson Arnold. I think when the offense is in this kind of shape, like you got to do whatever you can. Like it's not going to hurt to go back and forth because I mean, when you're dead last literally in the country, basically like you have nowhere to go but up. So you might as well ride the hot hand. Whoever in practice played the best, like we're going to go with them. Thought they did some good things. I mean, their offensive line still a big struggle. It's a tough job for a QB for them right now. Receivers are still very banged up. the offensive tackles are just not good right now against this Ole Miss defensive front. It was a struggle, but I thought they did good things hanging in. The short passing game was pretty effective early. Missed a few, but he hit some to keep some drives going. Thought he used his legs really effectively. You know, you kind of think of Michael Hawkins more in that light, but I thought Jackson Arnold used his legs well. Um, but yeah, I just thought all in all, Ole Miss defensive front was too much for their tackles specifically. On the other hand, thought Jackson Arnold played well. You know, I thought Ole Miss's offensive line, they've kind of had their ups and downs as well. They struggled some against this front of Oklahoma. So I thought both D lines were able to be disruptive. You know, Oklahoma was like I said, kind of able to extend some drives early, get on the board. Just felt like they were able to shorten the game a little bit because this was a large spread in this game, and so they were kind of able to muddy the water a little bit to keep themselves in the second half. But ultimately, they just didn't have enough firepower for what Jackson Dart and Ole Miss can do. But it was definitely a better sign of life than we've seen from OU. We know how good they are defensively, but this offense, it's still a struggle. But I did think there was some small progressions in some areas this week against Ole Miss.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, the defensive lines, both of them were really good. Ole Miss has dominated all over the quarterback all night, had 8 or 9 sacks, 9 sacks. Yeah, Jackson Dart played really well. The way that the Arkansas game turned out, Arkansas Mississippi State game turned out, is how I expected this game to turn out. And the way this game turned out is how I expected the Arkansas Mississippi State game to turn out. I really expected Ole Miss to just run up and down the field on them offensively. I mean, they dominated it. I mean, there really was no question. But I honestly thought they would put up a lot more points with a little more relative ease than they did. But Oklahoma's or defense is, I mean, that's basically their whole team. They're still a good defense. They just got no help. So, they did all they could do. But yeah, I mean, Ole Miss was just too much for them. There's still a chance that Ole Miss could potentially, I think it's like an 18, 19% chance they can make the playoffs still right at where they sit right now. I don't think it's likely, but it seems to me like Lane Kiffin still got them guys playing
Yeah.
hard. They were without Trey Harris this week. I mean, their best receiver that he didn't play this week. They were without a couple of guys this week. So I mean, for what they're playing with right now, I thought they did what they're expected to do. Still think that maybe they're playing with a little less energy than they were early in the season. And maybe some of them aren't quite as bought in still as they were. But I mean, it seems like Lane Kiffin's pretty much got that locker room still, believing and playing with everything they got.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like obviously a ton there to play for. I mean, the Kentucky loss is really a big hurt. I mean, that goes without saying.
Especially
That
now.
that's just one that you know that really can't happen. You can't lose that game at home, especially when you have the roster that Ole Miss has, the expectations that they have. That was just a brutal one to drop and one that's going to follow you the rest of the year. And if you don't make the playoffs, you're going to look back at that one and go, well, I mean, that's where we dropped it. Like that's one we just can't drop at home with what we have on the line and what we have on this team. And I did want to talk some about this Arkansas Mississippi State game. And like you said, I was very surprised what Arkansas was able to do. I know it's not a great Mississippi State defense by any means. It's actually a very bad Mississippi State defense, but um, I thought Taylor Green was man, he was outstanding. Thought the offensive line, both in the run game and pass pro, um, he had a clean pocket all day. I mean, there was
It's
times
like
he
they were
got
going
out of
through
the pocket.
walkthroughs.
Yeah, I thought his play. I thought just little nuances, but I thought a couple of his play fakes, man, were just impressive. I mean, just faking guys out. Like I mean, he kind of held it behind his back one time, and the tight end slipped out for an easy touchdown. I mean, nobody in the stadium covered him. Um, I don't think. I just thought it was really impressive standpoint. The way he played was able to get on. get on the perimeter when he needed to, make some extended plays with his arm, was able to have some effective runs like he's known for, and just thought he played outstanding. And thought Mississippi State's offense did some good things. Had some nice drives they were able to put together. But I mean, all in all, when you can't get a stop and you give up 58 at home, I mean, you're not going to win that game. But yeah, I just thought the way Arkansas's O line was able to play run game, pass game, it made Taylor Green had a great game, but man, they made his job, much, much easier and probably about as easy as it's going to be all year. So I was really impressed with what Arkansas was able to do. No matter who you're playing, if you can go on the road in the SEC and win by 30 plus, you had a good day at the Yard.
Absolutely. Man, college football is so weird this year. Bama been kind of dwindling. They've been playing not to their standard at all. I mean, they've been having a lot of miscues. Not just doesn't look like the Bama team we're used to. But then they come out Saturday and they look like the Bama team we're used to. I mean, not this Missouri team is not the Missouri team of last year, but they're still a damn good Missouri team. They found a way to win last week. They won some tough ball games this year. I mean, they got beat by Texas A&M, but other than that, they're they haven't lost a game until they ran into the buzzsaw of Alabama. I don't think that if Brady Cook was 100% healthy, it would have made any difference in this game. There was no answers. Bama's defense was playing with their heads on fire. Jalen Milroe looked really good this week, I thought. Thought they ran it pretty well. I thought they actually, leaned on the run game a little more this week than they ever have throughout this season. I mean, they had almost 300 yards, but would they ran it 37 times? Yeah, 37 times. So, I mean, this is the Bama team that we are used to seeing. This is what we expected to be done to Missouri. Missouri had no answer on either side of the football. Drew Pine looked terrified. Tyler Buckner beat him out or at Notre Dame, if that tells you anything about his skill talent. So it was a feeding day for Alabama, and they made the most of it. And I mean, this game was over after the first quarter.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. It's one of those things I don't want to beat my chest because this Missouri team, Brady Cook's banged up. Defensively, they're still really good. And they showed that for part of the game. First half, Alabama's offense looked about like it had the previous couple weeks. So I was a little concerned. I'm still not buying. I still don't feel Jalen Milroe's 100% healthy. They're not going to say it. I mean, he looked much better in the second half. It just saw some runs. I mean, in the first half, I was thinking, man, something's just not right, man. He just missing some throws he should hit. Just doesn't look as explosive, but looked more explosive in the second half. Finally went back to some quarterback runs that had been a staple of this offense that they kind of went away from. That's why it was kind of throwing up a red flag to me, like, what's going on here? He just did not look himself mentally, physically, but looked much better in the second half. I mean, not as sharp as we've seen him, but all in all was pretty good in the second half. You mentioned it with the run game. Um, Kind of a theme in this game in the second half was very effective. Justice Haynes had some great runs. Jam Miller, Richard Young at the end of the game had a huge run. But I thought the perimeter run game and some of the quarterback runs they ran was able to kind of get that in between the tackles run game going. Finally, get the bats going. I mean, that's what these guys are capable of. They are really, really good running backs, and they're just not. They haven't been used to the amount that their talent is. Like they're really, really good. I believe in these guys a lot, and I think finally they were able to showcase it for an extended period of time. So that was great to see. Defensively locked in. I thought it was really cool at the end of the game. Goal line stand, backups were in. They put the
Yeah.
first team defense back in to preserve the shutout,
Yeah.
which was cool to see. Like, hey, we're playing pride, like we're playing to that standard we talk about all the time. So that was cool to see how excited they were to preserve that shutout was really cool, and I thought was a big fun moment of the game. But talking about Missouri though, man, Drew Pine, man, he is rough. and Alabama's defense played great. He absolutely handed a couple to him. I mean, absolutely threw it right to him. I texted family during the game, and I said, Drew Pine makes Peyton Thorne look like Peyton Manning. He is freaking terrible, dude. This guy is Drew Pine, man. I hate to say it, dude. You are not a good quarterback. I'm sorry. I don't really come
I'm
out
pretty
that
sure he's a
harsh a lot
fifth
of
seed.
times. You had a rough game, my friend. You had a rough game. If y'all remember the viral Tommy Reese video where he's in the booth chewing the quarterback out, that was Drew Pine at Notre Dame. So uh, probably not the first or last time he's gonna get chewed out. Um, Brady Cook, you could tell from early on, wasn't healthy. I mean, there was a couple times he tried to plant off his right foot, kind of drive it back across the middle, and just wasn't himself. I mean, I give him a lot of credit for trying to go. I mean, he did literally everything he could to put himself out there, but it just wasn't happening. And like you said, I don't think it wouldn't have changed the outcome. I mean, I do think they would have had a shot to put some drives together. They had no chance with Drew Pine to put a drive together. I think a healthier Brady Cook would have put up a fight and probably put up some drives together a
Why
little
did he
bit.
have to come back in last week's game? Why did he
But
have to do that?
yeah, well, if he would have been at the hospital the entire time, Auburn would have two SEC wins. I promise you
Yeah.
that. Um, so that much is clear. But I mean, the main takeaway, I saw what I wanted to see. They did what I felt like they should do in this spot. Especially in the second half, limited turnovers for the most part, limited penalties. So yeah, a lot of good takeaways, but it's one of those things like the state Missouri's in. I'm not beating my chest by any means. I mean, it was a very good win, no doubt, but um, there was a lot of flaws there for Missouri that um, they couldn't take advantage of anything. So, but yeah, all in all, really happy with what I saw, and um, big bye week coming up here to. They say he's 100%. I'm still not buying it. I think it's a great bye week to get Jalen 100% healthy. Going to talk about A&M LSU in a minute, but I think his skill set, what we saw out of Marcel Reed, I think Jalen Milroe can obviously do some of those same things, and there's some things to take advantage of with LSU right now. I think this bye week will do him some good to make sure he's 100% right um, going into a playoff elimination game in Death Valley here in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump into that game, though, Texas A&M LSU, I want to cover Texas and Vandy real quick. Um, I mean, defense just played really well. It's four interceptions. Both defenses had two interceptions, so kind of washed each other out. Diego had two passing touchdowns. Quinn had three passing touchdowns. I believe Diego ran for another one, so they both were responsible for three touchdowns. So it was really even game by the quarterbacks anyway from that stretch, and that's what that's really what decides a lot of SEC play. So from that aspect, they were really even, and that shows you why game went down to the wire. I thought Vandy had a chance to win it there at the end. I thought they were going to come up with find a way to win. And I thought, man, this Vandy team, there's something different about them. Still played really extremely well, but Texas found a way to come away with a win in the end. Thought they really played good late in the fourth quarter. Texas did. I thought they found a way to come away with a win. Speaks volumes to where they are still mentally. I think that the road to the playoffs is still wide open for them. This was a big win for them, especially from what Vandy's done this year and how close they were to doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought both defenses played well. I thought, kind of talking about Quinn Ewers, I thought he played really, really well. Thought that, both D lines did a good job getting their hands up. Like Vandy got a couple tips.
Yeah.
Really wasn't bad plays by Ewers. It's
Yeah.
just kind of unfortunate got
Yeah.
tipped. And um, so I thought, a couple turnovers for him, but I thought he played really, really well. Diego kind of did what he always does, able to improvise, make some plays, extend plays with his legs. Had the big touchdown scramble early in the game to put them up 7-0 in the first quarter. Yeah, I thought a really hard fought game by both. Vandy hung in like you mentioned, they were down 7 with a chance to go tie or win the game in the last 4 minutes. Ended up getting stopped on 4th down. He has to scramble back, throw it up, and got intercepted there. Thought they did a good job though holding them to a field goal.
Yeah.
Obviously, they drove back down and scored to cut it to 3, but at that point they were out of time. Had to do an onside kick in the last minute. Didn't get it, but yeah, but they were there with 4 minutes left, a chance to drive down and tie the game. And I think if they would have been able to drive it down there, I think they probably would have went for 2 and just probably tried to
Oh,
win it.
100%.
That's just kind of their vibe. Like I think they're one like, hey, let's try to go for the kill now. Didn't get that chance, but I think that would have been the plan if they would have scored there in the final minute or two. But yeah, all in all, really really good game. I mean, Texas fans, heard some of them, not playing well last week, and then a close game at Vandy. Like this isn't the same Vandy team, man. We all know that. Like this is a this is a good football team. So I mean, not not the most talented. They're undermanned a little bit, but man, they play so hard. They're so gritty. They're so tough. They take after their quarterback, and yeah, just came away impressed with them, and a good win for Texas. I mean, to bounce back and do it on the road, and I think one benefit though is that I think Texas got not. This is to not make excuse for Alabama, but I do think the way they played against Alabama, winning that game, beating Kentucky, when you're Texas coming off a loss and like they're not going to overlook them. And now Auburn coming in this game, like Vandy's not going to be a team anybody's going to overlook the rest of the way. Like that
Right.
got the whole country's attention. I do feel like from Alabama's perspective, they kind of got caught off guard thinking they weren't as good as they were, and they in fact were good.
Yeah.
I like I said, I just don't think Alabama came prepared in that game, and Vandy was a lot better than Alabama expected them to be. I think once that happened, for Texas and them coming out, like they're like, okay, yeah, we can't overlook Vandy. Like this is a good team. So I do think they got that benefit a little bit, but without saying, um, good road win for them, and yeah, continue to be impressed with what Vandy's done. I mean, they to have a shot late in the game to potentially beat 2 top 5 teams. Like, I mean, what more can you ask out of them?
Absolutely. And really the game of the weekend now, LSU, Texas A&M. I mean, absolute barn burner, honestly. This is a classic college football shootout. Um, LSU jumps up big early. I mean, going into half, they're up 10, 17-7. Coming out, they're confident, looking good. Nussmeier's playing extremely well, throwing the pillow around the yard. Uh, and then Elko, man, he might have made one of the best coaching decisions. Hard coaching decision to make, but decides to pull Wigman and put in Marcel Reed. And from then on, the offense changed. What I did not realize watching this, I went back and watched. I wasn't able to watch it live. I mean, I figured it was just sprinkled in a little more than it was. From the time Marcel Reed came in the game till the end of the game, Texas A&M threw 2 passes, and one of
Yeah,
them was a deep ball that went for like 50 yards.
yeah.
I think the other one was a little short screen. I
That
could
was
be
a
wrong.
money ball too. He
Yeah,
threw. That was a
absolutely.
beautiful ball.
2 passes, 2 for 70 yards. Like they absolutely ran all over LSU in the second half. When Marshall Reed came in, it was game over with. They played really, really well. I mean, Marshall Reed himself had 62 yards on 9 carries. They ran for 245 yards on 45 carries. Absolutely dominated the second half. There was no chance at any of their drives that LSU was going to stop them. It's really tough when you're going and you're preparing all week for a quarterback like Wigman, who is going to throw the ball around the yard. He can utilize his legs, but that's not their game plan with him. You're preparing for that all week. And then they throw in one of the nastiest dual threat quarterbacks I've seen in a couple years. Little Johnny Manzielish out there. Obviously not with the arm, but with his legs. A little Johnny Manziel is just making things happen. And then that just completely opened up the rest of the run game. Offensive line played really, really well in the second half, opening up, holes you could drive a Mack truck through. And it seemed like every other handoff was a first down for Texas A&M in that second half. Uh, really, you hate it for LSU for being up so big and having a chance to, if they win this game, they have a really good path to the college football playoff. And they weren't quite able to close it out. Nussmeier kind of gets erratic in the second half, throws an interception. Defense made a good play. Listening to the commentators, they disguised um, they disguised their coverage as man, so he thought he had the outside pass or the outside route. He threw it outside. It wasn't man. He jumped off, picked the ball off, and then that was all she wrote pretty much. Then LSU, it's 17-28 or 17-20, yeah, 17-28. LSU drives down, they punch it in. They go for two, they don't get it. I was like, all right, if they can get a stop here, I think LSU's going to win this game. It'll be like a few weeks ago when they had to make a big time comeback and led for 5 seconds of the game. And so they come out, Texas A&M gets the ball, and like 3 plays they're on the 5-yard line. You're like, yeah, this game is over with. They found their answer for Saturday night anyway. I'm curious to see how they move forward with their quarterbacks now, because if you play Marcel Reed the rest of the way, I feel like defenses are going to find a way to stop it and slow it down a little bit, and you're going to have to rely on your passing game a little more. I don't know if he's good enough yet to be able to rely on the passing game if the running game's not there for him. So I'm excited to see where Elko decides to move forward with his quarterbacks from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, a couple key stats from this game. I mean, if you told us this, going into the game, I would say a lot. They outrushed LSU 242 to 24. I mean, Brian Kelly said it perfectly post game. He's like, yeah, I mean, there's things, Garrett Nussmeier, paraphrasing here, but there's things, Garrett Nussmeier can do better. But he's like, we're not putting him in a fair position. He threw the ball 50 times.
For
We only
400
rushed for
yards.
we only rushed for 24 yards.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the run game was non-existent. He's like, we have to have balance on offense. Like, you can't be effective for long periods of time like this. Like, you have to have balance. We have to help him out. Like, he's a very good talent, but he's not a guy you can just Joe Burrow and just lean on the guy and just like, man, I mean, very good player, no doubt about it. But it's like, man, we can't rely on him to go win every game for us. You
Even
gotta,
Burrow had Edwards Zelaire, and they ran the ball over people too at times. So
yeah,
even he
you
had
gotta have
the
balance.
run game to fall back on.
Yeah, I mean, and Marcel Reed comes in the game. I mean, this was a game. What's crazy about this game is, I mean, it was 17-7. LSU was that close to breaking this open where you're like,
Oh
man,
yeah.
LSU came out gangbusters. I'm sitting over here shaking in my boots, having to go down here in 2 weeks, looking at them in the first quarter. I'm like, holy crap. I said, man, Nuss is on fire.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I was scared to death, to be honest with you. And then, um, they were that. I mean, it just felt like they were a play or two away, a drive away from, man, if they could go up 24-7, it's like, feels like it would have been a totally different game. Give A&M credit, able to hang in. They put Marcel Reed in the second half. 5 straight scoring drives to end the game, 4 touchdown drives in a row, and then a field goal at the end of the game. I mean, you said it, man. 2 passes, 2 for 2, 70 yards, had 9 carries, 3 touchdown runs there on those 5 drives. Um, yeah, I mean, they just absolutely dominated up front, both sides of the ball in the second half. I mean, when you're out rushing your opponent 242 to 24, I mean, and LSU turns the ball over, 3 interceptions. I mean, yeah, it's set up for. I mean, I thought it was a coaching clinic by Mike Elko in the second
Oh yeah.
half. What they did defensively, the move to go to Marcel Reed, how they were able to just do whatever they wanted in the run game in the second half with zone read game with Maury Daniels, Le'Veon Moss. They got a really good 1-2 punch at running back that's been good for them. So Man, it was a really really impressive performance, and here we are going into Halloween with A&M sitting alone at the top of the SEC. Man, I mean, can't predict this stuff, man. You just can't predict this
No.
stuff.
So this is the first time ever that Texas A&M is undefeated after 5 games in the conference.
Yeah,
Ever. Since 2012. Since Johnny Manziel's been there. I mean, yeah, Jimbo Fisher, who's supposed to be the answer. I mean, they gave him a damn national championship trophy when they hired him. And this is the first time a first year coach. I mean, you can't, like you said, you can't make it up. You can't predict it. It's absolutely amazing. Texas A&M might be sitting in Atlanta here in a couple weeks.
I will say this: I've been hit or miss on some of my predictions on the spot. I was dead wrong about LSU going to Arkansas. I was worried about them going to Arkansas. They showed up, played extremely well. I don't like this spot for Texas A&M. Going to South Carolina off a bye week, this defensive front can cause big time issues. I'm just saying, I don't know that South Carolina's going to upset them, but I'm definitely not overlooking going to Williams-Brice this weekend. The way the SEC is this year, that South Carolina team, I believe, is better than what the record says they are.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is a team that's been playing good football here recently, coming off a bye. You're going on the road. It's a tough spot, man. It's that classic kind of trap game, I guess you could say, type of spot. I just think this A&M team they're good. I mean, they are a good team, but they're just like the rest of the teams. They got their flaws as well. It just seems like it's that type of year when a team, man, when they're really rolling, it just seems like that's when they fall. That's when they get knocked
Yep.
off. And it's so hard, like, you're 5-0 in the SEC. It's like, man, how long can you sustain it? So I just with the depending on the quarterback situation, I'm very curious about that spot. Like I'm nervous for them to be in this spot going to Williams-Brice. Have a lot of respect for that South Carolina team, and just beware, Aggies, beware. That's all I'll say.
2.5 point favorite. Texas A&M is right now. I'm not sure what it opened at, but that's what they are at right now. It says it opened as Texas A&M is a 3.5 point favorite, so it's dropped a point. Um, I'm with Cameron. I'd be careful, but I don't know that I'm going to play that game. Ole Miss and Arkansas. Ole Miss is a 7 point favorite. It's at Arkansas. I'm hammering the Razorbacks. I'm hammering the Razorbacks. You're telling me Ole Miss is a touchdown better than Arkansas after what we've seen these last few weeks, and they're at Arkansas? I ain't buying it. Ole Miss might win, but they are not a touchdown better. They're not.
Yeah, I love. I'm kind of I love a home underdog. I've always been a
Absolutely.
home underdog fan. That's South Carolina. They're a slight home underdog. I definitely like the points here for sure. That seven, that's a flashing light for me. +7 for sure. I could see Ole Miss getting a win because I mean Arkansas obviously has been had some really good games, then had a few letdowns as well. Definitely like the points for sure. I could see Ole Miss squeaking out a win, but yeah, definitely think that's a very very competitive ball game, and the way Taylor Green much different D line that they're going to play this week. Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. I mean, it's a night and day difference, but really like the way he was able to play, and they've had some really good moments this year. So, yeah, I'm definitely taking the points for certain with Arkansas there.
Absolutely. And Auburn Vanderbilt, man, like I said earlier, I'm staying away from this game. Opened at 6.5, went down to 5.5. Now, on according to ESPN Bet, it's at 6.5. Auburn is favored 6.5. Over under 48.5. I'd be more willing to play that than anything else. I would play the under 48.5 is what I would play. Um, if I was going to play anything, but I'm probably staying away from that game completely.
Yeah, I don't really have a great feel on the spread of this game. I guess if I just had to take one, I would take the points with Vanderbilt, but I'm with you on I just on the under. I mean, this is not a game I'm taking, but to me, this is a game where both teams want to shorten it. Vandy, that's their specialty. They want to shorten the game. That's what they've done so well this year. Um, with a heavy run first team, a team that's relies on the quarterback making, ad lib type of plays. I mean, using his arm, but kind of not really from the pocket necessarily. So a lot of run based kind of offense. So, and I think same thing with Auburn. Like I think they want to lean on that run game as well. You saw that last week. So I think it's just a run heavy type of game for both sides. So I think possessions get a little more limited. So yeah, that would kind of lend to a more lower scoring game. Um, think a really close game. I think I'm gonna lean Auburn to win at home, but I do think it's probably within that seven number though. But I would if I have to make a pick on it, I would take Auburn. I think in a close one. I just have a lot of respect for Diego Pavia the way Vandy's been playing. I don't really see either team necessarily pulling away, barring like a 4 turnover game or something like that. But yeah, it's going to be a good one there on the Plains.
Absolutely. And Florida's taking on Georgia, world's largest cocktail party, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great spot for Florida to be in because they're coming off a bye week about to play Georgia. But guess what? Georgia's coming off a bye week too. So it really just washes out.
Yep.
I think Florida coming off the game against Kentucky where they aired it out when they needed to, but they really just dominated on every facet of the ball. Ran it pretty much all game and then aired it out a time or two, all big chunk plays when they went through the air. That honeymoon phase is over with that because that ain't happening against this Georgia team. Georgia's a 17-point favorite. I think the line's a little steep, but I'm probably taking the under 52.5. I don't see Florida putting up very many points, if any at all.
I definitely, I agree. I think the line's maybe a touch rich. I mean, I definitely think Georgia's winning this game. I definitely have more confidence in Florida what I've seen the last few weeks than I did say, you know, 4 weeks ago for them
Right.
just making this a competitive game and making this kind of interesting a little bit. You know, a month ago I would have said, man, Georgia's going to absolutely blow these cats out or blow these Gators out, I should say. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely I like what I've seen from Florida. They had a nice game against UCF. Played Tennessee very well. Could have won that game. Had opportunities to win that game. Left some money on the table in the first half. Then obviously had a great performance against Kentucky at home. So definitely feeling more confident in Florida to keep it competitive. But at the end of the day, they don't have enough for Georgia. And I think if Georgia comes out, with their you know B game at least. I mean, if they come out close to what we know Georgia can be, I don't think it's going to be in doubt in the fourth quarter. But definitely a little more confident in Florida to be able to keep it, a little bit closer than maybe I thought a little while ago.
I agree. And then I think Mississippi State gets another win this week. They're taking on UMass at home. They're 18.5-point favorite. I'm hammering that line. Uh, Jeff Lebby's offense is still Jeff Lebby's offense. And an SEC roster, maybe the worst in the SEC, is still better than the best in whatever conference UMass is in. Couldn't tell you what it is. I know that's bad of me, but I couldn't tell you what it's in. So I'm taking Mississippi State to win by like 100. So hammering that 18.5. Doesn't matter what the line is. I'm hammering it. UMass
The
is abysmal, dude.
the main whatever the main is, the Bears, I think they are. It's what this logo looks like. They are in the Coastal Athletic Association. They are in the CAA, baby.
That's what
And
UMass is in?
oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Maine. I apologize. I was looking at Oklahoma, Maine. I apologize on that. I think UMass is independent, actually.
That's
So
why I
they're
couldn't tell you conference.
independent.
But yeah,
Sorry,
they're
my
abysmal,
apologies. I was
dude.
looking at Maine. This game is a 34.5 point spread for Oklahoma. I don't know if OU can score 34. So I'm not convinced they're even scoring 34 in this game. So maybe
Maine's a
maybe I'm
4-4 ball
hammering
club.
Maine. I don't know.
Hey, I might.
I mean, I'm just saying that's a rich line for this Oklahoma offense against anybody. to be
And
honest.
like this main team's 500. They're 4-4, so they're not. I mean, they can do
I
something.
don't know. I mean, I'm half joking a little bit, but in the same breath, I'm like, man, that's a lot of points for this Oklahoma offense right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
if the main Bears can give me 14 points, I'm feeling good. Feeling real good. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, kind of like I said, half joking on that one a little bit, but we will keep an eye on it. I tell you one I like. I'm usually not one to call for covering big lines or anything like that. I'm especially this year. I'm thinking the game's being pretty close. I think Tennessee rolls over
I was just
Kentucky.
about to say that.
I think I already took this line at 15 and a half. It's up to 16 and a half now in some sites. Like I said, took it at 15 and a half this morning actually at work. So I think Tennessee rolls in this spot coming off a bye. With Tennessee's defense, that defensive front, I just can't see Kentucky generate much offense. Um, I like Tennessee to roll here. I think Nico's going to have a nice afternoon. Dylan Sampson and that running game. I mean, you saw what Auburn was able to do on the ground. I think Tennessee can do something similar with Dylan Sampson. I mean, two of the those guys are two of the best running backs in the SEC right now.
Absolutely.
So, um, yeah, I like Tennessee, and I like Tennessee to win pretty handily in this game. I like tough spot for Kentucky. Like the spot for Tennessee coming off the bye, being in Neyland. Um, I like them. I like them by 3 touchdowns plus.
I'm putting money on it right now as we speak. I got it at minus 16.
Yeah, I think the line's at 16. I think it ought to be it's 16 and a half. It ought to be about 20 and a half,
Yeah, I
probably.
agree. I
I
agree.
like Tennessee by 21, maybe more, depending. Um, I don't know. I'm not one to call for blowouts very often, especially in the SEC. But this one to me just kind of has that vibe to it. The kind of the direction you're seeing both teams heading right now.
And then I know it's out of the conference, but I want to get your thoughts on this game this week. Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State is a 3.5 point favorite, over under 46.5. Penn State plus 150 money line. What's your initial thoughts on that? Because I can see it going either way. I'm probably not going to play this game. I I think Ohio State's going to win. I don't know. I don't really know how handily it's going to be. It could be by a field goal and Penn State cover.
Yeah, I'm expecting a really close game. I mean, I feel like Ohio State. I know against Oregon they were clicking pretty well. Weren't really clicking a ton against Nebraska. Feel like they've kind of had some ups and downs on that side of the ball a little bit. Um, Penn State, with Nick Singleton and the backs, Katron Allen, those guys, like they're more of a run first type of offense. Think they're going to try to be the more physical team. But I really like Ohio State's defense, though. I'm with you. I think Ohio State, especially having a loss already, I may feel a tad bit differently if they were undefeated, but I think with them having a loss, I mean, going to be a crazy environment. I mean, it's not a night game, which is a little unfortunate, but I have some plans in the afternoon, so I'm glad this is at 11 where I can watch this in its entirety live. I'm with you though. I'm gonna go Ohio State in a close game. I don't see either team pulling away. I don't think I don't want to say either one doesn't have the capability. I just think the style they're playing right now. Yeah, I'm leaning Ohio State in a close one, but I'm not touching this game on the line at all. But yeah, I would go Ohio State in a close one, but this is gonna be a really fun game, a really big atmosphere. Being in state college. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Saturdays_SEC. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Help us out. We really appreciate that. Feel free to comment on any of our videos, anything more you want to hear us talk about, or just want to put your thoughts in there. We love hearing from you guys. Love hearing comments from um, different perspectives, different fan bases around the SEC. I mean, that's what we love the most, talking football. I mean, that's why we do this podcast. We love talking about it. So we've had a ton of things to cover. It's been a wild SEC season, kind of as you mentioned earlier, it's been a wild sports season. I feel like in general, just across the landscape, and it's going to be fun down the stretch. Um, Playoff rankings, the initial playoff rankings come out next Tuesday, the 5th. So going to be fun to kind of see where some teams in this league stand. AP poll is a little all over the place, to be honest with you. A lot of it doesn't make sense. So it'd be nice to get some clarity down the stretch of where your team is standing. Um, so I think a lot of interesting teams here still kind of jockeying for position. So gonna be fun down the stretch. Keep it locked in here with us at Saturdays in the SEC, and we'll catch you guys back next week.
Thank you, guys.